Sziasztok, én Fehér Ákos vagyok, ez pedig itt a Polip csatorna. A mai napon Milan Mazurekkel, a Republika párt Európai Parlamenti képviselőjével fogok beszélgetni. Szó lesz többek között kisebbségpolitikáról, az európai jövőről, valamint arról, hogy ő maga személyesen mit gondol ezekről a kérdésekről. Tartsatok velem, kérlek titeket, hogy iratkozzatok fel a csatornára, ha még nem tettétek, támogassatok minket Patreonon, hogy minél több emberhez eljussunk, és minél színesebb tartalmat gyártassunk. Itt vagyunk Milan Mazurekkel, a Republika párt Európa Parlamenti képviselőjével, és ma igazából azt próbáljuk megtudni, hogy mik is azok a közös pontok a szlovák és a magyar képviselők között, ami alapján ők az EP-ben szövetségeket tudnak kötni, szövetségeket tudnak találni, és egy közös álláspontot kialakítani.
Thank you very much for this opportunity, and I'm really grateful for this space and for this interview. And I'm sending big greetings to all of our Hungarians, people who are watching this interview. I think we have a common enemies these times. That means even Hungary and Slovakia and all of the member countries of the European Union are facing the same threats. We are facing the threats in case of migration policies. The elites, so-called elites of the European Union are trying to flood our countries with illegal migrants from Africa or from Asia and completely change the environment of our countries. And we see the results of that policies in the Western Europe. We see the criminality, we see children and women raped every day. We see a group rapes, we see terrorist attacks, we see knife attacks, stabbing every day on the train stations and everywhere. Christmas markets, you can compare Christmas market in Bratislava or Budapest with Christmas market in Berlin or Paris. That's completely different world. And this is something which I think is in common for us, which can put us together against the same threat like this migration policy. Then we have, for example, the progressive liberalism, which is forced to our countries from the leadership of the European Union. They try to force us to accept, for example, same-sex marriage for to men or to women. Even they are trying to force us to accept the sex transition of young children, that 5-year or 6-year-old children can change their gender or something like that. They even say that there are more than 2 genders, like 70 genders or something. And even for us in Slovakia or maybe in Poland or in Hungary, people think that those ideas are just crazy and they are dangerous. They are damaging the minds and souls of young children, and we need to protect our children and our people from that. And then we have also, which is very in common for Slovakia and Hungary, we have our positions in case of economic and energetic sanctions against Russia, for example, because we are completely dependent on the gas from Russia, and we are not able just to replace it very cheap with some gas from United States, like LNG coming from the ocean, because it's much more expensive for us and it will damage our households. And I think there is many more policies, but those are one of the biggest threats right now, which are in common for us, and I'm really glad for us to have this position or opportunity to cooperate in those cases and trying to find the common voice to help each other.
Szóval akkor ez volt számodra a legfőbb oka, hogy az Európai Parlamentbe képviselőnek úgymond jelentkeztél, és aztán egy következő átvezető kérdéssel pedig azt szeretném megkérdezni, hogy mi lenne a jövőben az elérni kívánt cél? Tehát milyen módon akarod elérni ezeket a veszélyeknek a megszüntetését, amiről az imént beszéltél?
For me, the position of the deputy of the European Parliament is just a tool how to obtain or how to achieve the change which we want to see in the society at all. I think if we want to change society, if we want to protect our women and children, our future, if we want for our children to be able to grow up in a real world like we were used to know from our childhood, then we need to fight. And the only possibility in the democratic society how to fight and how to achieve those changes is through the politics. That's why I was a candidate, I was a member of the National Council in Slovak Republic, and right now I was elected into the European Parliament, and I see a big change which is happening all over the European Union, not only in Slovakia or Hungary, which we often opposite openly the main policies of the European Union, but also in the Western Europe. Look at France. The first party which is leading the election polls is Marine Le Pen's Rassemblement National. Look at Germany. The AfD is leading party in the polls. The same you have, for example, in Austria, where the FPO is third in the election polls, and also maybe in former member states, Great Britain, where the Reform Party of Nigel Farage is first in the poll, and especially among the young people. And this is very important for us because we see that this change is happening. When you look at the last election cycle, the mandates of the deputies of the European Parliament, there were few patriotic or sovereignist political forces, but right now there are almost 200 when you count together the ESN, the Patriots and ECR group, and few of the independent non-attached members, which most of them have very similar opinions to us. Then you see you have almost 200 those members, and this is big change in only 5 years. And this is the answer on that question, how we want to achieve our change, how we want to secure our goals. By convincing people that our positions are the right positions, by speaking openly the truth to the people, and maybe even by interviews like these, to open people's mind and see them, yes, there is a hope, there is a chance to change the European Union, there is a chance to defeat Ursula von der Leyen and her Commission, and stop the disastrous policies which they are forcing to us right now, and then secure the Europe like everybody would like. The Europe where member states are cooperating only on mutual beneficial policies, not like this, like right now when you have a political dictate, when some unelected elites, so-called elites, because it's not very genuine word for them, and they are just forcing their policies to everybody. No, we should cooperate only in things which are mutual beneficial for all of us.
Ugye a te pártod alapvetően euroszkeptikus, tehát valójában számotokra, mint képviselőknek, mi lenne a legjobb? Tehát megtartani az Európai Uniót, benne maradni az Európai Unióba, tehát milyen jellegűre kéne átalakítani ezt az egész struktúrát?
I see in Slovakia right now that there is not a big support for leaving the EU, because there are still many benefits like traveling, like making business abroad and everything, but we are very close to big change in the European Union. Few years ago, we would not even imagine a situation where we would have the motion for censure against the Ursula von der Leyen, and the European Parliament would vote against her or about her maintaining the position which she right now has. We had this, I think, in June, and right now we are facing two more, these motions of censure, which means that there is a growing opposition. And even for the politicians who are openly supporting Ursula von der Leyen in her position after the scandal with the COVID vaccines, etc., we see that it's hard for them to even explain to their own voters why did they maintain Ursula in her position, which is a really good sign for us, because after the next European election, everything can change completely. So that's why I think we can use European Union as a tool for our interest if we will get the power in the position which are right now held by the enemies of Europe, because I'm calling them openly enemies of Europe. They hate European nations, they hate freedom of European people, and they hate the national differences and the cultural specifications of every European nation. That's why if we will defeat them, if we will replace them, and we will get those positions of powers, we can change Europe towards the future where it will be how it started. Like I said in the previous questions, the European Union, which is based on common and mutual beneficial cooperation of the sovereign national states. And if this will fail, then we need to have a conversation about the leaving of the European Union, but this is the decision of the people.
Igen, hát eddig ugye nemzetközi térben mozogtunk, nemzetközi térben gondolkodtunk, és nagyon jól el is mondtad, hogy miben látszik meg igazából az a vonal, ahol ezek a különböző nacionalista pártok együtt tudnak mozogni és együtt tudnak működni. Ugye Szlovákia egy érdekes terep ebben a tekintetben, mert ugye egy komoly magyar kisebbség él az országban, és hogyha már itt tartunk, a Republika pártnak egy nagyon komoly magyar szavazói bázisa van. Hogyan próbáljátok meg egyébként elérni ezeket a magyar embereket?
We made a big progress in Slovakia in terms of relations between the Slovak majority of the population and the ethnic or national minorities. I think our relations with, for example, Hungarian minority in Slovakia is absolutely best right now. We don't have any conflicts in politics based on the national differences right now, and we are really past through the 90s and the terrible years where from my perspective, the artificially created tensions and conflicts between the national minorities and both parties which were based or built their campaigns in the elections based on the hatred between Hungarians and Slovaks. All of this is a past. We don't have this kind of political parties in the parliament anymore. Nobody is solving this kind of issues. I think the position of the national minorities in Slovakia is perfect. We have a perfect relations and we are trying to cooperate. I think Hungarian minority in Slovakia and also the Slovak majority, both of them, like those people, are not only friends. Everybody accept that we as citizens of the Slovak Republic need to cooperate together towards a better future, because like I spoke in the first question, we have the common enemies, we have the common threats, which are much bigger than any historical issues and any historical questions, which are not adequate enough in the current times. And we are really trying to open the real questions. We are talking about the people. For example, you have this problem with housing prices, which is in common for Slovaks, for Hungarians, for any other German maybe minority in Slovakia. Yes. You have the criminality problem, which is in common for everybody. You have the problem with this rainbow ideology, which is in common. And also you have, for example, a problem with this modern Green Deal nonsense, with these measures coming from the European Union, which wants to, for example, ban the combustion engines in the cars for real people, so they will be forced to buy expensive electric cars, etc. You have these measures which are prohibiting them to build houses how they want, and those are the common and real threats which everybody is facing, and we are talking to the people. Or, for example, we had few months ago this epidemic for cattle, for cows in the southern part of Slovakia, which were mostly affected for the parts of the Slovakia where is a Hungarian majority, and the Republika was the highest eloquent party which were speaking for the interests of the people whose cows were killed by hundreds without any real explanation and reason. They were healthy, they were not sick, they had a test that they are healthy, but some bureaucrats decided we need to kill thousands and thousands of cattle and ruin the life of hundreds or thousands of people who work in these farmer environment. So we fought for the people in the southern part of Slovakia, and a lot of people saw that like we are standing for the real people, and we don't care really who has what kind of minority or nationality status.
Beszéltél arról, hogy igazából soha nem látott jó viszony van a két nemzet között, és igazából az lenne a kérdésem, hogy mit gondolsz arról, hogy a magyar etnikai alapon való politizálás támogató magyar politikai elit nincs bent a szlovák törvényhozásban, és lehetséges, hogy ezáltal úgymond látatlanban politizálva a szlovák embereknek sem kelti úgy fel a figyelmét az ő tevékenységük és az ő adott esetben akár szeparatista vagy bármilyen jellegű követeléseik.
I don't know the correct answer for this question, but I know for sure that all the people in Slovakia started to be tired of these nonsense debates and all of those disputes against Hungarians and Slovaks. And I think both, even Slovak people and Hungarian minority, everybody started just to be tired of that, and they wanted for politicians to not speak all the time about the history and the conflicts, but to solve the real issues which are in common for everybody. That's why I think they completely lost interest for the so-called separatist parties in the southern part of Slovakia, and most of the people don't vote anymore for them, and they don't have any real chance, even in the election polls right now, to enter the parliament. In today's poll, the party which openly called themselves as a Hungarian party had 3% of the vote, so it's 2% below the necessary limits, and there is no possible chance to grow for them. And a lot of politicians who are speaking for the Hungarian minority are in a lot of different political parties. Even we have a lot of Hungarian members in our party, and we have regional organizations in the most or majority Hungarian regions, and everybody works really fine, really well. We respect the regional differences, as you have completely different environment, for example, in Eastern Slovakia, Western Slovakia, Northern, Southern. There are regional differences which are completely nature. And those tensions just doesn't exist anymore. And even when somebody is trying to invoke those tensions again, and starting to speak that we need to make a separatist region, or we need to fight against those bad Hungarians or something like that, nobody takes that seriously. And even I think both groups of the people are condemning those kind of activities and say, stop with that, we survived that in the 90s, it's not beneficial for anybody, we just need to go to the future and cooperate as mutually beneficial things, which we are talking all the time about.
Hát ugye a magyar autonómia törekvések már jó ideje lekerültek a napirendről, hát azt hiszem a 2000-es évek elején hozták föl ezt, és 2006-tól már egyáltalán nem. De hogy egyébként te, akár külön is, és a pártod hogyan viszonyul mondjuk ehhez a hát nem teljes politikai autonómiához, hanem inkább oktatás vagy kulturális autonómiához?
Okay, yes, the autonomy is not a political question anymore, and there is no political support for that at all. But we have there were made a lot of good progress in case of improving the relationships, and also in improving the situation of any national minority in Slovakia. Right now we have a big so-called minority cultural fund, which is more than 10 million euros a year, and most of that money, I think more than 70%, are going especially to the Hungarian cultural institution in Slovakia, like folk singers and these festivals, a lot of spectacles and everything. And it's really helping a lot of those cities in the southern part of Slovakia, and they're beneficiaries of those money. And you also have Hungarian schools. Hungarian is an official language which can be used on the offices. It needs, I think, only 20% of the population, and you can officially speak in Hungarian on the offices. Also, you have these schools where the Hungarian is a direct prime language of education. So everything is solved fine. And we don't even open this question anymore because nobody is complaining about it. We don't hear any voices in Slovakia that this is a discrimination, we have a lack of rights which we need or something like. No, there is nothing like that anymore. And I think majority of these between nationalities tensions are reduced only to historical questions, which from my perspective are useless because nobody living right now is able to change the history. History is passed away, and we need to focus on the future from my perspective.
Én viszont úgy gondolom, hogy lehetséges, hogy a történelem az velünk él, ugye a Beneš-dekrétumokra gondolok itt, annak bizonyos részei még mai napig érvényben vannak Szlovákiában, amik ugye azért diszkriminatív jellegűek, és sajnos a 20. század maradványai. Mit gondolsz erről a kérdésről?
Yes, I heard about it, and there are a lot of historical questions and discussions between the historians. A lot of people is criticizing these decrees from Mr. Beneš. A lot of people agrees with them, and I think, from my perspective, it's a debate for historians. They can ask about it, they can talk about it. I know a lot of also German people who are making complaints about the discrimination and inequalities which came after the Second World War towards them in that time Czechoslovakia. And there is a lot of questions, a lot of things, a lot of bad and good things which happen in history, and I think we are not able to solve it anymore right now. And also there is no political will from any party and no political reality which would lead us to change anything on the Beneš decrees in Slovakia or in Czech Republic, which is also very faced with that. And that's why for us it's not even a question. We are not discussing it, we don't have any stance against that because it's not a real political question. Nobody is talking about it in Slovakia. We heard it sometimes when somebody is trying to induce or invoke any of these historical questions.
Záró és bónusz kérdésem igazából arra irányulna, hogy hallottál-e Ilaria Salisról, és hogy mi a véleményed arról, amit tett Magyarországon?
She's a terrible person, she is a criminal and she should end up in jail, and it's really a shame that somebody who attacked innocent people based on their political ideas on the streets with hammers and in a group like cowards from behind, that she was elected in the European Parliament. For me it's a terrible shame, and it's pointing on the lack of humanity and morality on the voters who elected that person, and I hope her immunity will be reduced, cancelled, and she will end up in jail, I hope in Hungary or somewhere, and she will face the punishment she just deserves. And I think Antifa is a terrorist organization from my perspective, definitely, for sure.
És mit gondolsz arról, hogy a Magyarországon az Antifát most terrorszervezetnek nyilvánították?
I fully support that. Maybe I'm even a little envy. We don't have an Antifa problem in Slovakia because most of those so-called members of Antifa are drug addicts and violent, terrible persons laying somewhere on the ground drinking alcohol. But I think this is their fate. They choose it voluntarily, deliberately. But I still think Antifa is a real threat, especially in Western Europe and in USA, and we should condemn them as a terrorist organization. That's why I yesterday signed a resolution here in the European Parliament from Tom van den Riesche from Netherlands, and I fully support to condemn and point and name Antifa as a terrorist organization and put the highest possible measures against them and stop these terrorist organizations from working and terrorizing ordinary and polite people.
Thank you very much, Milan.
Thank you very much for this opportunity.
Ez volt már a beszélgetésünk. Ha még nem tettétek, iratkozzatok fel a csatornára, lájkoljatok, és támogassatok minket Patreonon. Köszönöm, hogy itt voltatok.